Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So here's the deal, y'all. This is part 2 of the Black Islamophobes upload. You may be surprised to hear me say this, but this time I'm going to have to talk to the Muslims. I'm going to have to go in to a certain extent. I'm going to start by saying to the Muslims who are neither black nor Southeast Asian that if it weren't for your cultural preferences for white over black and white features over black features and white everything over black everything, which is not religious but is entirely cultural and ignorant and backwards and fup and inferior and deserving of disrespect and even satanic as far as I'm concerned and blasphemous. The white supremacist Islamophobe would not have a leg to stand on to try to convince black folks into Islamophobia. So in a nutshell, the white supremacist Islamophobe is guilty of the propaganda. You are guilty of making it credible. And I meant what I said about it being blasphemous because, see, white supremacy is a false religion and its God is whiteness. Shout out to Bilal Abdullah for explaining that very well. I'm talking to you subcontinentals, Indians and Pakistanis, Persians, Afghans, and Arabs mostly, non-black Arabs. You know what your problems are. And I want to give a shout out to the young ones amongst you that are, in fact, anti-racist. To you all, my hat goes off because many of you are pretty much saying in agreement, we're not going to continue this stuff. The problem is you're losing other aspects of your religion. But this is one aspect of Jahiliyyah you're casting aside. And I'm glad you are. Next, I'm going to say to you Muslims who are largely black from the continent or from the West. Those of you who, I don't mean just every last one of us. I'm talking about those of you who specifically want to be colorblind. You can be color fair, color just, and color neutral. As a matter of fact, we have to be. That as a part of our faith. But there are those of you who seek to be color blind. And I don't know why you think that's even possible. And you will sit up and you will tell black folks who are Muslim and want to confront this taghut, this false religion and this false God, to stop thinking about it. You are not only part of the reason that the white Islamophobe, actually, you're not the one that necessarily fuels the white Islamophobe and makes their propaganda, believable, but you cause a different problem. You actually contribute to black people coming into the faith and then leaving it because they find that you're all about removing every false god and every false religion, and even so much as sometimes removing things that are just common sense in the name of removing all false gods and all false religions. But then when it's time to confront this big old bad global demon of white supremacy and its false god of whiteness or white worship, all of a sudden they shouldn't think about it. You love to come along and say, well, you know, the biggest divide between people is who's Muslim and who's not. Yeah, we know that. You're saying a true statement, but you're saying it for a false reason. You don't want to confront the big bad taghut. Nobody really wants to all the time. Hell, David didn't want to face Goliath. May Allah be pleased with David, and peace and prayers be on David. Peace be to David. Dawood alayhi salam. He didn't want to do it. He did it anyway. Nuh alayhi salam didn't want to leave his son, but he had to leave his son. Ibrahim did not want to sacrifice his son, but he prepared himself to do it. And then, as we know and celebrate every year, he wound up not having to. So we may not want to confront it all the time. There are days I don't want to confront it, but that's when I need a break. That doesn't mean that I make it a part of my religion to not confront it, because it's too selfish a thing for me to do. No. And some of our people get sick and tired of that. They get sick and tired of hearing you say that. And they've been Muslim, and they find there's no opposition to white supremacy amongst the Muslims, and they confuse that with no opposition to white supremacy in Islam, or there's always an Islamic reason to not oppose it, even though it shouldn't be there in the first place. And then they leave and go into Yoruba or Vodun or something like that, something more specifically black, because you actually pushed them there, just not realizing you did it. You just don't care. Now you've actually done something worse. You can be fair to everybody. You must, regardless of their origin. You must. But many of you are afraid to alienate other Muslims. You're afraid of that. You're afraid to stand up. You're afraid they're going to call you a racist. If you're really an anti-racist and someone calls you a racist for that, you should be honored. It means you're doing something right. I think I said enough. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.